You know, the most important thing in this job is knowing you can trust the guy next to you.
Ray Breslin is a security expert who specializes in escaping from high-security prisons. After many years of escape, he decided to build the ultimate security firm designed to break out of any prison.
Told you we expanded too fast.
You gonna sit there and bust my balls to get back to work?
Little did he know someone was coming after him.
I think they're after Breslin.
His best operative, Shu Ran, is kidnapped and trapped inside a high-tech prison. No guards, no windows, and no way out.
You are inmate 1764.
Now, Shu must fight through brutal battles, deadly traps, and an unforgiving system. While Breslin races against time to bring his team home.
Get him out.
We can't go in there blind. We don't know a layout. We don't have anything.
Stick around to find out what happens next. We will recap this movie scene by scene.
The movie opens up during a rescue mission at Chechnya. Field operator Luke is beaten up by his abductors, while another operator, Shu, poses as a hostage among two others. Their other teammate Jasper poses as one of the captors. The four hostages are then taken to a room together with a camera aimed at them. Jasper aims his gun at Luke, and out of nowhere the camera explodes, which creates a diversion long enough for the hostages to take out their captors and go running. They hide inside a cell when more reinforcements approach. With the facility looking for them, one of their captors realizes where the group escaped from. Jasper rushes to their location with the sirens blaring, and in the meantime, both Luke and Shu take out all armed men in their vicinity and run. The duo realize that Jasper wasn't where he was supposed to be as per their plan, and as Shu hot wires their getaway vehicle, Jasper joins them. They get going when an explosion occurs, but soon realize that Jasper's ND delay has caused one of the hostages to lose their life.
She's been shot.
Give me room.
She's gone.
Shit.
Jasper tries to defend himself and says he went to disarm their enemy's weapons, which was not part of the plan. Seems he has a dependency on an algorithm which led to his deviance and the death of a hostage. Knowing that Ray will not appreciate losing a hostage, Hush and Abigail lead them back. At Breslin Security's office in Atlanta, Ray fires Jasper for trusting his half-cooked computer program more than his team.
I'm letting you go. I won't be needing your services anymore.
He then advises Shu about the importance of learning to differentiate between ego and intuition. In Shanghai, a year later, Shu meets his cousin, Yuxing Ma of Yuxing Technologies, which is on the verge of announcing innovative satellite communications tech to the world. Speaking to Yuxing's sister Qin, Shu learns of her fear for her brother's life. She tells him that after he refused Swiss tech giant Russia's offer to buy him out thrice, she is scared something might happen. Since Yushang refuses to take a bodyguard, Qin requests Hu to accompany him to Bangkok over the weekend. While leaving the party with a drunk Yushang, who spots a couple of masked guys blocking their way. Once he's completed dismantling his opponents, another man appears to fire a stun gun which knocks him out. When he wakes up later, Shu is welcomed by an automated voice named Galileo to a place called Hades. Surrounded by hundreds of people in a Colosseum-like stadium, Galileo informs him that he is to participate in a battle in the zoo. Forced to fight a stranger amongst a cheering audience who gives it his all, and after an entertainingly intense battle, he knocks out his opponent and is declared the winner. Shu is then awarded hours of sanctuary time. For this, a recreational space appears in the zoo. And with that, the scene cuts to Luke telling Hush that Qin told him that both Shu and her brother dropped off the radar. At Hades, Shu is surprised to see Jasper there as an inmate, but does not get the time to approach him before they are ordered to get into their respective cells. Alone in his cell, Shu channels all his attention to Ray's fundamental guidelines about breaking out of prisons. To successfully stage an escape, he understands that he will need information about the layout of Hades and the routine that is followed to find a weakness. He also wonders about who among the inmates he could ask for help and trust that they will hold up their end of the deal. During his interrogation by the warden of Hades, Sue realizes that a lot of his and Yuxing's background information is already known. The warden tells him that while Yuxing parted with important information about one of his patents, he is withholding details about another patent.
I know everything about my animals.
Having identified himself merely as the zookeeper, the warden asks Shu to acquire the remaining details. Shu learns from Yuxing later that the patent was with regards to a game-changing satellite communications tech that could easily override and control any computer system globally, which would be a catastrophe. The duo there approach Jasper, who is shocked to see Shu there. He tells him that both of them being captured in Hades could mean that someone was looking for Ray, saying that he might have been there for a couple of months already. He explains that the battle days at Hades are always tough to endure, seeing as the losers and the ones who refuse to fight aren't as lucky as the winners who are rewarded. Meanwhile, through his sources, Ray determines that the investors of the tomb are possibly the same people behind Hades.
Get him out.
We can't go in there blind. We don't know a layout. We don't have anything.
Fortified in such a way that whoever goes there is never seen again, he says the company Rusho might be behind it. An eager Luke volunteers to get to Hades, but Ray refuses to send him. Nonetheless, going behind Ray's back, Hush provides Luke the contact details of someone he knows at Rusho to further look into things. Later, a data breach into Rusho's deals reveals information that they've been paying a dark bank account. Abigail further adds that a private prison industry lobbyist, Leon Grassi, received million from Rusho as well. Ray then makes his way to a contact named Trent DeRosa, who will set up a meeting with Leon. Once there, Ray goes to confront the man, but before getting any information from him, the arrival of several masked men interrupts the gathering. Ray proves that he has not lost his touch by taking down multiple guys. Trent also matches his energy, but when Leon problematically is shot by one of the remaining masked men who is then killed, Trent is instead recruited to help find Hades. In the zoo at Hades, Shu notices a new face and speaking to the man reveals that he is the cook there. Shu is quickly brushed off by the man who walks away. Suddenly spotting his opponent from the battle on his first day, Shu picks a fight with him despite it being a truce day. But as the fighting continues, everyone involved is soon tasered and the fight is brought to an abrupt end. Shu briefly gains consciousness to find himself in the company of a robot that was healing his injuries. Later, when Akala approaches him, Shu tells him that he picked a fight with him in the hopes of meeting a doctor and looking around the place. Meanwhile, Luke finds himself in the midst of a car chase and informs Hush that his contact at Russia wasn't much help, but that he was following a new lead, the man he is currently chasing. As Luke chases the man, they both end up inside a warehouse. The other car then takes off and locks the place down, trapping Luke inside. At Hades, when Yuxing tells Shu about being tortured again, he urges him to try and be mentally strong. Forced to battle in a pair soon later, Shu then promptly defeats both the opponents and earn his team some sanctuary time. He uses this time in the best possible way to map out whatever he knows about the layout of Hades, and then discusses with Jasper how there is a lot happening on the other side of the cells, such as hallways, infirmary, interrogation, and the headquarters. Following Luke's disappearance, Abigail looks into the matter and discovers that the last number he called belonged to Rusho and Geneva. She then asks Hush why he let Luke go against Ray's direct orders, and him trusting Luke is enough to cop a bit of a scolding. Meanwhile, captured at the warehouse, Luke wakes up to find himself at Hades. Meeting up with the others later, it is now clear that all of them being there together cannot be a coincidence. Asking them to be aware of their surroundings, Shu tells Jasper and Luke to keep contact among them to a bare minimum. Determined to make an escape, he finally manages to befriend the cook and asks him to count the steps from his cell to the kitchen in an attempt to fill in the missing blanks in his layout map. This reveals that the distance varies from day to day. Intending to find out how that happens, Shu makes a deal with Luke during their battle to let him win. Grabbing a pencil from the sanctuary after his win, he then makes discrete complimentary marks on the floor and the wall of the zoo. When he spots the marks were separated and across the room from each other the next day, he concludes that Hades is a dynamic prison. However, constant movement implies that there isn't a layout, and the use of automation everywhere means there isn't even a routine to poke through for weaknesses. Instead, Jasper offers to get the help of the Legion, a bunch of computer nerds with their leader count having the entire layout of the prison somewhere on his servers. But the challenge is to figure out the leader amongst them before the zookeeper does. Following through on his promise to Ray, Trent gets a contact of his to find the owner of the dark account. Once he's done, he goes to a back room and it's finally time to get locked and loaded. Meanwhile, the zookeeper's patience regarding Yuxing's patent runs thin.
Time is up!
Later, when their opponents refuse to fight them, the members of the Legion win by default and are awarded sanctuary time. Experiencing its peace for the first time, Count Zero is glad to be of assistance to Shu. However, he is caught by prison guards the next day, and Shu wonders how they figured out his identity. Luke informs him of Jasper's way of working on his own. The duo realizes that since they shared all the information with him, he must be working for Hades.
How did they know? You work for the prison. I run the prison.
Jasper then walks into the room with a suit and clarifies to them that he actually runs the entire operation. Having found out from Trent that the owner of the dark bank account that received money from Rusho indeed belonged to Jasper, a determined Ray decides to locate Hades with help from Hush. Back at Hades, Jasper explains to Shu and Luke that after the tomb's investors lost a ton of money because of Ray, they were on the lookout for an upgrade on the layout as well as how it is run. When they found out that Ray cut off one of his own, they approached him and Jasper finally got to use his beloved algorithms for a completely automated prison system. He also tells them that every inmate at Hades owns a precious piece of intel that he intends to sell to its highest bidder. To teach them a lesson, Shu and Luke are pitted against all the inmates at Hades later in a thoroughly outnumbered contest.
Make sure he fights every day.
While they get beaten by several inmates, Jasper asks the zookeeper to ensure that Shu fights a battle every day till Hades breaks his spirit and he gets Yuxing to reveal his tech secret. Determined to get his revenge and to prove his worth to the investors, Jasper captures Ray to be brought to Hades. What he doesn't know, though, is that it was exactly what Ray wanted. Once at Hades, Ray is challenged by Jasper to show him why intuitions and teamwork are better than his algorithms and machines. To prove his point, Jasper pits Ray in a battle against the other inmates while denying Shu and Luke entry to the zoo. Just as Jasper hoped, helplessly watching Ray get defeated and beaten manages to break Shu. Elsewhere, Trent gets a call for help from Hush. Following Ray's capture, Yuxing in the meantime tells Shu not to lose hope. And with that, Shu decides to devise a new plan which won't be easy to predict for Jasper. Meanwhile, Ray gets in touch with Hush through a communication device hidden in his tooth. He is informed that despite managing to get through Galileo's firewall at Hades, they have access to only part of the layout. Hush tells him that since this was insufficient to plan an exit, they need Yuxing to work on an access point inside Hades. After Hush confirms that he can manipulate the cameras for about a minute, Ray asks if he can take over Galileo's voice box in the zoo. Shu hears Galileo speaking in the Qingdao dialect as a signal from Ray, and after Hush accesses the cameras, the two finally meet. Ray quickly relays all the information to Shu and asks him to get Yuxing to help them. Trent then calls Hush to tell him that he's heading to the warehouse where Luke was captured. Inside his cell, Luke receives his food, but discovers a hidden message inside it. They tell Akala to get ready and Yuxing is stressing as he told the zookeeper a fake spec, and he will soon realize it was a lie. The team then begins stealing and bringing whatever they have together. After collecting what they need, Yuxing creates with what he can use and eventually provides Hush an internal access point. Taking it further, Hush is then able to not just locate Hades but also map its entire layout. The Legion and some other men are told about the escape soon to happen and they all agree to help. Hush gives Ray about minutes to do what he can before Galileo reboots. When the time is right, Hush hits Galileo and causes a system failure. With all systems down, the group attempts to move the wall by hand and eventually do so. A massive firefight quickly ensues with Galileo turning back on. The group begin dismantling some guards and Trent is alerted to the location of Hades. The group meanwhile head to the medical center, where the remaining members of the Legion attempt to gain control of Hades, leaving Akala to cover for them. Ray, Shu, Luke, and Yuxing proceed further. Confident about the ability of his algorithm to respond to this intrusion, Jasper cuts all communication systems and begins resetting Hades' structure.
Clearing all access to main floor.
Once the restructuring is complete, Jasper releases gas on Ray and his team. Quickly finding the nearest point of exit, they make it out of the gas chamber. Problematically, the terminal in the medical center has gone rogue, and so Jasper sends a unit for them. Akala opens fire at them, but realizes there is too much and locks the door instead. Luke in the meantime is then separated from the rest of the group, and while Shu goes to get his teammate, Ray and Yuxing head to the control room at the medical lab. The door is blown apart and when the Legion resist they are shot. The zookeeper then enters and kills off Akala personally. Meanwhile, Ray gets to the control room to finally face Jasper. Appreciating Jasper's efforts to make Hades and Galileo, he tells him that while the system might seem like it has no weaknesses, there is always at least one point of vulnerability.
But very, very weak spot. You.
While looking for Luke, Shu suddenly comes into contact with the zookeeper. Without a weapon, the zookeeper uses his knife and Shu immediately deflects the blows while throwing some of his own.
No, I am the zookeeper.
Ray, meanwhile, tells Jasper about tracing the dark bank account to him. While he speaks, Yuxing disables Galileo's solar system and Trent reaches the location just in time to spot the opening. As Shu and Yuxing run away from the armed guards of Hades, Ray names Jasper as the one weakness of his creation. Knowing Jasper and his need to prove himself right, Ray expected to be captured and willingly came to Hades just to show him that Hades is not escape-proof. Just as Jasper realizes his blunder, Trent forces his way through the main door. Luke, problematically, though, is trapped in the sights of some armored guards. Out of nowhere, Trent appears and absolutely destroys all men in his sight. Meanwhile, Ray wants to see what Jasper can do without his tech. Without the power of machines to guide him, Jasper seems to be no match for Ray. Jasper eventually starts winning the fight against Ray. But with a second of hesitation, Ray puts Jasper in a lock and kills him. Trent completely destroys the control room. With Galileo completely out of commission, Shu and Yuxing emerge out of Hades into a church to which they make their way outside to be safely extracted. Ray enters the control room to finalize things when suddenly the group responsible for the tomb as well as Hades appears on a screen. Ray sends him a threat and the movie shuts to a close. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe the channel.